Hey everyone, it's Wildman, and in today's installment, we are going to be taking a look at a series called the Sonic Tapes. These tapes revolve around a corrupted version of Sonic that seems to be growing at an incredibly concerning pace, essentially turning the childhood icon into a behemoth of nightmare fuel. And not only that, but the attempts that have been made to stop it have only been met with horrific results. Also, I know we have covered a very similar analog horror series in the past, but this one really does bring a really fresh take, as the characters in the series are already in the real world, as opposed to the other series that we covered where the characters were trapped inside the video game. And what's interesting is that this version builds off the live action renditions of these characters, and again does take place in the real world, which is pretty interesting. So if you are in for a bit of a horrific rendition of this video game icon, stick around because this one genuinely gave me goosebumps. But yeah, before we begin, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well as liking the video and commenting bruh, because the engagement literally helps me pay my bills. So if you could do that, that would be great. Also check out my Instagram because I am pretty active on here. It'd be pretty cool. But yeah, let's get into this deeply disturbing piece of analog horror. In the first installment called House Footage, we can see a strange and terrifying version of the hedgehog standing before what I'm assuming is Dr. Robotnik. It appears the villain of this series has met a brutal end as he lays there with his face in complete horror. His former nemesis was not supposed to defeat him like this. A message then appears reading, "An unknown threat has been causing harm to people in the area. There have been several mutilations and reported missing persons in the past day. Authorities are currently investigating. Lock your doors, windows, and arm yourself. Be prepared for a face-to-face encounter with this threat." We are then shown security camera footage of a home, presumably the homeowner watching the cameras to patrol their home after receiving such a disturbing broadcast alert. But it isn't long until the corrupted video game character makes it inside the home. The video ends with Sonic entering the home and devouring the body of the person who was living inside of it. Within the first installment into the tapes, we're met with this version of Tails that is left in a deep slumber. That is, until he hears footsteps coming from outside. His eyes immediately peel back as he begins to try and figure out where the footsteps are coming from. However, without much luck, Tails is left to discover that the noise is much closer now. It's behind him. This disturbing version of the hedgehog sneaks up behind Tails and begins suffocating him with his tongue. It's honestly pretty disturbing, as this extremely disfigured version of Sonic attacking what should be his best friend. And just by the way that Tails looks in this frame, it's almost like he knew this day would come. One of these days, his old friend would pay him a visit. The tape cuts out and we're given this message. Over the past 3 weeks, there have been an exponential number of missing persons reports. Several of these reports consist of individuals being taken right out of their homes. There are currently 946 people that have gone missing from the Hilltop County area. Not a single individual's body has been recovered. Search parties have been sent out into the other hilltop wilderness, but many have gone missing from those as well. The public is in hysterics and the local government doesn't know what to do. It's then when we hear the shattering of glass, followed by what seems to be what was left of Tails after his encounter with Sonic. And what's even creepier is that we get this entirely new version of Tails, one that is just as disfigured as the Sonic that attacked him. I honestly can't tell if this is his mouth being pried open by some sort of device, or if this is his face being ripped open, when Sonic attacked him. Regardless, staring at this horrific sight is definitely enough to keep you up at night. The messages then continue and say that the images you are about to witness were recovered from a camera that was on one of the search party members. Their whereabouts are currently unknown. The camera was found next to blood trails leading into the woods. There have also been sightings of an entity flying through the sky in the late hours of the night. Images of these creatures have surfaced online, but the local government refuses to acknowledge their existence. Without any logical explanation for the disappearances, many members of the public believe these entities are the kidnappers. And then when it gets to the last scene in the video, there's this incredibly high-pitched ringing that I am going to lower so it doesn't mess up your eardrums. But then we are shown what seems to be the progression of the transformation that happened to Sonic. Starting out with his normal form, then elongated legs and arms. Next, his entire body doubles in size, resembling more of that of a beast than the video game character we all know. The last transformation that Sonic undergoes is not shown. However, based on the size of his arm, the creature that Sonic has transformed into has most likely at the bare minimum tripled in size by this point. And now at this point it's pretty unclear what happened to Sonic, whether it be a disease that has for some reason mutated his entire body and altered his behavior, or perhaps something far more sinister like someone pulling the strings on this, having genetically altered the hedgehog into this killing machine. And now there's two.
I'm here. Hello, can you hear me? Are you guys there?
In the second installment, we're introduced to a police officer that was called to patrol the area of the edge of the hilltop forest, which is also where all of these disappearances have happened, where all of those 900 plus people, as mentioned in the last video, just suddenly disappeared. Locals reported hearing loud cries during late hours of the night. This is the recovered footage from the officer's body cam. The footage that plays is dated at November 14th, 2006. The officer investigates the scene, but there is nothing in sight. That is until noises begin to be heard by the officer.
I'm here. Hello, can you hear me? Are you guys there? What the hell is that?
And while the footage is incredibly blurry, we can make out what seems to be the mutated version of Sonic in the distance, towering over the trees around him, as his mutation continues to make him increase in size. The officer is then spotted and attempts to flee from the creature, but before he can make it any farther, he encounters Tails hiding in the bushes. And what's really creepy about this scene is that if you take a closer look at the image, you can see that there are multiple Tails hiding in the darkness. In this frame, there are at least 3 of them, all suffering from the same facial abnormality, although it is unclear whether or not they have the same goal as Sonic: to kill. The officer then makes it to a clearing where he finds this statue of what appears to be a bull made out of stone, but soon after, Sonic finds him. Miraculously, the officer is able to make a run for it, but it isn't long before the creature catches up to him. The officer's body was found the next morning on the statue that appeared in the footage. His insides were removed, and even though his body was found less than 24 hours after the date in the footage, it was severely decomposed. Officers stated that the body looked like it had been turning into nothing. When authorities returned to the location of the statue later that day, it was nowhere to be seen. The public has been recommended to evacuate areas with high disappearances, but the footage is not being released as to not cause any more panic. The final scene in the video shows us the sheer size of the creature and how it's still growing. Alright, so as we get into this third video, things start to take a little bit of a different approach, as this video takes place inside of the game. In the video, we're shown Knuckles running through green hills, but there's something wrong, because the entire map is empty. There aren't any items, and more importantly, there aren't any enemies either. And this is something that Knuckles himself acknowledges. Knuckles then stumbles upon one of the crab enemies, completely mutilated. In sheer horror, he responds by saying, "Who would do something like this?" And it isn't long before he encounters Tails. Tails, do you know what's going on here? Tails? But then the game completely glitches and we can see 4 Tails standing before Knuckles, all sharing that dreadful frown, and then this happens. Sonic appears behind Knuckles and tells him to try and run, which results in this incredibly unnerving scene where Knuckles tries to run away, but the monstrosity that is Sonic catches him with ease.
Try to run.
Knuckles asking, "What are you?" Sonic responding, "I am what I need to be." You can't be Sonic. Sonic would never do this. And what did you do to Tails? What is your motive? So many questions. Let me show you everything. After saying this, Sonic devours Knuckles, which leads to this segment where Sonic truly does show Knuckles everything. What is this? Seek them out. The Super Emeralds? They're your only hope. It needs the Chaos Emeralds for the ritual. Don't let it complete the ritual. What happens if it does? And by the end of the episode, we really are left with more questions than answers, as this mysterious voice tells Knuckles to find the Super Emeralds to prevent Sonic from completing the ritual. So there is a lot of room for speculation when it comes to this series, because there have been a total of 900 plus people who have gone missing, those people taken by presumably at this point Sonic. Sonic also mentions that he became this way because he had to, but for what that reason is unknown. In this final video, at least for now, it's titled Chaos. The video begins with a GUN report, which is the Guardian Units of the Nation, which is the group that appears in the Sonic the Hedgehog series. Sonic has become too large and powerful to keep hidden from the public. The replicants of what appear to be Tails have become incredibly widespread as well. There's no longer concerns only in the United States, as Sonic is evolving at a rapid pace, and if something isn't done soon, the entire planet will be in danger. Sonic has exhibited incredible speeds, even at its immense size. And it's here where we get to see the sheer size of Sonic, towering over trees and seems to span at least an acre of land. Quote, Sonic cleared the several hundred-mile distance between Hilltop County and Station Square in mere seconds. Due to its size, the speed it traveled at created a shockwave that devastated everything along its path. It seemed to have no interest in the civilians of Station Square. It walked around almost like it was searching for something, until it let out a deathly cry. And then we are shown Sonic standing in the middle of the city, its mouth vibrating from the sheer volume of its screams. But looking at the footage even closer, you can see a green orb flying into Sonic's mouth. After it obtained the emerald, it disappeared in a blink of an eye. A former associate of Juyuan, Knuckles, brought an interesting course of action to our attention. Quote, at one point in time, these super emeralds were at an immense peak in power. Knuckles suggests while the Juyuan focuses on preventing Sonic from acquiring more emeralds, he will return to the time of the super emeralds. He plans to bring them back to use on Sonic. Alright, so I'm not super caught up on Sonic lore, so to catch everyone up that also isn't. So in the Sonic the Hedgehog series, the Chaos Emeralds are a set of 7 mysterious and powerful relics that many civilizations have searched for. The emeralds are a core part of the Sonic storyline, and Sonic and his allies can transform into superior versions of themselves by using their powers. So essentially they're this great source of power that can elevate a person's will and powers. And it seems like Knuckles wants to go back in time to get these emeralds to prevent Sonic from becoming even more powerful. Quote, with the death of Dr. Robotnik and no other means of stopping such a threat, this seems to be the best option we have. The number of missing persons has long overshot the thousands. This isn't including the almost uncountable number of casualties caused by it simply moving from one place to another. Meaning that Sonic has trampled hundreds by simply moving itself. There have already been reports of Tails' kidnappings in other countries. Many parts of the US have also declared martial law. And martial law is typically only ever used in the worst cases because martial law involves the temporary substitution of military authority for civilian rule and is usually invoked in time of war, rebellion, or natural disaster. And when martial law is in effect, the military commander of an area has unlimited authority to make and enforce laws, meaning that the military can pretty much do whatever they want to accomplish a task and don't need the go-ahead from anyone. Quote, we fear what it can do with the power of those emeralds. May God help us all. The video ends with Knuckles returning to the past in order to retrieve the emeralds that can hopefully stop Sonic's rampage. However, whether or not this plan is a success is unknown, because if it isn't, this brutal rampage will never end. But yeah, that pretty much does it for this one. I want to give a huge shout out to all of my channel members, as well as my ultimate tiers, Kareem Ariano and Alejandro from the Tower. If you want early access to videos, as well as your name right here, it's only $1.99. You also get to support me, which is super cool, and if not, you can also subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment brah, because engagement also does help me out a lot. So, I'll see you later. Bye. Love ya.